You see, they have all the COVID joys. Maximum occupancy 11 persons in this specific shop, and in the parks, even on regular wooden benches, you would have written keep the distance of 2 meters. And everybody, without exceptions, they use masks everywhere. To enter a shopping center or even McDonald's or any kind of place, you need not just vaccination as it was in Cyprus. You need, that's another dome, that's a different one, and you see, you have the same dome kind of thing. The previous which I showed was on that direction, a good distance away, and there is another entrance. Yeah, and they regulate which direction you enter and exit. You have different entrances for getting in or getting out of the place. And yeah, they not just ask you for vaccination to get inside of these things. You have to show the special app, Al-Hosn was it called, I forgot already, special app in the phone. And it updates information in real time. And it shows, like you have to have vaccination. No way around it. You have to have vaccination. And you have to also have PCR test, I think, every 3 days. And if you don't have it, this app on real time, it will show that it's red or it's grey or whatever, but it will not be green. And unless it's green, you're not allowed in these shopping centers. And that app shows also your name and your picture, so they can see it's you, not somebody else. So all the technologies are used. And in airports, they even have some special apps in iPhones. And the men are sitting with this iPhone in the tripod every little distance, checking and screening people's faces. And this app supposedly can tell if you are suspicious in terms of COVID. But I understand that many other countries are saying that this is the government which says it, but in reality it might not be exactly working like that. So it is kind of funny. And I noticed that there is somebody standing and checking for those who are coming in the toilet. I wonder, are they counting how many people are in and how many more are allowed? Not to exceed the limitations and distancing things or whatever. So yeah, my idea was that this kind of shows that more or less all these government enforced, coerced COVID restrictions, there are more or less arbitrary things which are put in place according to, there's a prayer room even, but that's for ladies only, so should be somewhere else. That's a gents prayer room there. Oh, that's funny. Shall we go to a shopping center's prayer room? That's the first time I see such thing. And basically all these COVID restrictions are arbitrary nonsenses enforced by governments according to what government think that will be acceptable within the certain society. Like if it's not acceptable, you're not getting anywhere with enforcing. You can't enforce it basically. You can put it in the place, write it in the law, but you can't enforce it. So basically what my point was, that all these things show governments' feel of the respective nations' tolerance to all kinds of nonsenses. And here the tolerance is very high. And as a result, the government was able to enforce things which, like, for example, in Egypt, would never go through. it would never work. You could never get away with such enforcement. They don't use masks anywhere, even in crowded buses or wherever, let alone any kind of testing and vaccination and God knows what else. So yeah, it kind of shows this thing, and to me it's a useful way how to measure freedom levels in those places, because the less tolerant to the restrictions is the society, the less governments are allowing themselves to encroach into people's freedoms, and the more freedom you have. And the society's acceptance and tolerance towards restrictions, I don't think it changes that quickly. Like, you can, of course, all these COVID propagandas show that you can make a successful propaganda and change society's perception of things. But in general, I think it's not as quickly changeable. Government can be changed quicker than society's acceptance towards restrictions. And the reason for why I think it's useful information is that if you know that some place, I don't know, Australia or Emirates or many European places or even America, for example, those societies are very tolerant towards encroachment in their freedoms and oppression, governmental oppression and restrictions and all that kind of things. Let's say in Australia, for example, maybe you have heard what kind of lockdowns they had or still have maybe there. And like, which other place, in which other country a government, no matter what kind of government, would get away with such level of stupidity? Like, even Taliban wouldn't get such things through in Afghanistan, which Australian government was easily allowed to get away with, to make a whole country into a prison, because society is tolerant to that kind of thing. But there are other places where both economical, cultural, psychological, all kind of other things dictate that the society is very intolerant towards those restrictions, and there the governments were unsuccessful in enforcing 2% of that nonsense which Australia went through, or still is going through. So yeah, these things kind of show you. Shukran. I'm kind of still talking in Arabic, although here everybody talks in English more than in Arabic even, and he was not Arab. So sorry about that. So yeah, this just serves me as a litmus paper indicator which societies should be avoided in future. Like, I'm not against visiting Australia. I would love to do it, and I have no doubt about that Australians are very nice people, and I have met quite a few of them, and they were all very good persons. So it's not about that, but it's about risk level of living there. I wouldn't want to live there, because risk level is too high, unacceptable for me. That any other kind of difficult situation, new virus, political tension, whatever, any other thing which could happen down the line in the next years, it can easily result in draconian and stupid restrictions. Because I know, and these governments know, that society is tolerant to them, and society will not push back. It will swallow whatever you give to them, and they will eat it and will not say anything. So governments know it, and government is always something which has to be kept in check, and when it gets too free, the people suffer. And yeah, Australian government, they know now that they can get away with almost anything, and people will just accept it and tolerate it. So they can afford to do such things which no other government would dream about doing even. Well, I shouldn't say no other. There are others who does similar things as well. But you got the point, yeah? So, yeah, it means stay away from those places. They're dangerous to live in. And on the other hand, this litmus paper test shows me also other countries which are very good. Like Egypt, like Turkey, even such places like, for example, Albania. They are different in terms that governments get away with very little nonsense and stupidity. They can't enforce even mask mandates, let alone anything else, because societies are not tolerant to those kind of nonsenses. Economy is in such a level that you can't get people into stupid, nonsensical things. It doesn't work. Even if you write it in a law, it never happens in life. And that tells me that these are the places, and I'm not speaking just about these three countries, it's a general idea, you understand, that those kind of places are the places which, in this sense, are good candidates for making home into, for living, settling there. Even though it sounds very strange, because these are kind of non-developed, poor, difficult kind of countries. But in many ways, they're not difficult at all. The problem is only if you want to work and earn wage there, then you are in trouble. But if your income is coming from outside, there's no problem living there, in most of the situations or cases. And there, then, you can easily afford to be there, live there, and enjoy the life which is full of freedom, which is something which I personally value a lot. But of course I understand that not everybody values freedom higher than comfort or predictability or security. But yeah, here we each of us have our balance of what we feel is the best combination of things. And yeah, I forgot to tell you about all these vaccinations and tests. Imagine if the society have such high vaccination levels that just to enter here you have to be vaccinated and tested every 3 days. So imagine, just imagine how much money is being made by those companies who produce all those tests and vaccines. This is how you can enter actually, where there is no entry. You see? This is how it's done. Then you don't need any vaccination or test. You just go to the exit only place, wait until somebody goes out, like what I did, and then quickly slip in. Because nobody is checking that door, obviously. In the door where it was entry only, entrance only, here that door is, you can see, that's the one. There is well organized checks. There's no way you will get through without all these things in order. So yeah, for those companies who are making the COVID tests and vaccinations, imagine this amount of money which is made by these companies in such countries where there is a lot of money so that governments can spend it all on these kind of nonsense things, and where people's tolerance levels to nonsense and restrictions are so high that the governments can get away with such kind of laws and things and enforce it in real life. It's a gold mine for these companies. It's a gold mine, literally, such country. What can I say? What these countries didn't make in Egypt, they make up 5 times in this small country of United Arab Emirates. Although I have my full respect towards any illness and people who die or suffer from the illnesses, including COVID, including flu, including every other illness, I don't joke and laugh about that. But why I'm using these terms, that nonsense and all the negative terms which I was using, quite a few, I admit. Why I'm using it, it's not about the illness and the problems the illness causes. It is about the problems which restrictions causes, which in my view are far greater than the ones which are caused by illness. I do admit, yes, people die. Yes, people suffer. Yes, it is a problem for hospitals and healthcare system. Of course, I admit it. It's no question about that. But I have a feel that it could be something like 3% of the whole trouble. Yes, it is real trouble. This 3% trouble, it is a real problem. Yes, I admit it. But why should we make 97% more trouble with restrictions? With all these nonsenses which governments unfortunately can get away with in so many places during these years when the COVID is in a trend, when the COVID fashion is on among governments.